On September 24th, 1983, 11-year-old Sabrina Bowie was raped, strangled to death, and left in a soybean field in North Carolina by two young men. One of the men was 15-year-old Leon Brown, sentenced to the death penalty after 5 hours of interrogation. So, after nearly 31 years of imprisonment, both of the men were let go and were pardoned by Governor Pat McCrory of North Carolina in 2015 due to new DNA evidence that had proved that they were not guilty. My name is Anthony Morrow, Senator of Tennessee, and I'm proposing a bill to the U.S. Senate to abolish the death penalty. So the death penalty, or the people that actually die, it's a too common occurrence in our judicial system, and many others don't have the chance to prove that they are innocent before they are put to death. Um, so Justice John Paul Stevens was a former of the U.S. Supreme Court, and recently he has changed his views on the death penalty, as he was pro for it the whole time that he was there, and then afterwards he decided that it was wrong and that we should do something about that. So I'm going to play a quick video that's it's about a minute and 26 seconds to show you John Paul Stevens's views. So one ways that he talked about is deterrence. Does the death penalty actually deter people from committing crime? So if you don't know what deterrence is the threat to deter people from offending. So if they're scared basically to commit a crime. Most people would say that they can get away with not having the death penalty, that they can either take a plea bargain or they'll offer them something even better. That way they don't have to get the death penalty and they're not that scared. And I believe that the death penalty doesn't change a murderer's way that they think. Most of the time, that occurs in the heat of a moment. So, if you caught your wife cheating on a man, you might just kill him in the heat of the moment, not even thinking it out. So, you're not even worried about the death penalty at that time. Another example is, let's look at speeding. How many people speed? Probably almost all of us have in the past week, for sure. If people were killed for speeding, how many people would speed? Most people wouldn't. I know I would try not to the best that I could. Would be a good deterrence, is that way people would not speed, because therefore they would be put to death if that happened. Let's see. So a question that people bring up a lot of the times is, does our taxpayer dollars really pay for all the time that they're in prison, and why do we have to pay for them to live on? Free food, free place to stay. Actually, it is. I have a chart here, and it actually shows that it is a lot cheaper to incarcerate people for life than it is to sentence them to the death penalty, because majority of the time they spend 20 years or so before they're actually put to death. So you have to pay for them then, and then you also have to pay for the injection or whatever method that they choose to kill the person. So based on study or research done by the Death Penalty Information Center, Tennessee it costs about 48% more to kill somebody by the death penalty than it is to just send them to prison. So if you again look at the chart, you can see how much it costs, even if you just try to send them to the death penalty and it doesn't work out. It's still a lot more than going ahead and send them to life in prison. So if we look back at John Paul Stevens, is what he was saying. He said that he would change some amendments, such as the 8th, which is that you shouldn't, no excessive bail, that there shouldn't be no cruel and unusual punishment, and he would add no death penalty. So if you look at other countries, you can see such as the stuff going on with ISIS right now, as they're beheading people or doing other cruel things. We think that it's okay to just inject somebody or do other ways to kill them. But no one has ever came back from the dead to say that that didn't hurt. So why are we going ahead and killing them anyway? Some people might think that it's the best way just to go ahead and put them to sleep, and then that way they can have a peaceful death. But how many people have actually came back and been like, yep, that was a peaceful death? I mean, nobody has actually come back to do that. So amending the 8th Amendment would actually be a pretty good idea. So, based on some research done by Professor Austin Sarrett of the Michigan University, he found that over 120 years, that there's been about 3.5% of the attempted death penalties has went wrong. As you can see by the chart, that there hasn't been one whenever they line him up to the firing line and actually shoot at him. But there's not that possibility might not happen, that they could miss or something else might go wrong. Um, and so if you see that the other ones, there's a bunch of different ways that people have died, or not died immediately. They might have eventually, or maybe they survived it. But that's a cruel way if you mess up or the gas doesn't go right and they just get deathly sick and then they have to live longer. And then that's cruel because they're having to suffer even more. So there's some other ways that we should be able to sentence people without doing the death penalty. We could send them to life with parole. Life with parole would be approximately 30 years is the time they normally spend. So you are, say you're 50 or 35 or something, like that's when you committed a murder or something, and they sentence you to life in prison with possible parole. So say you're 35, but you have to stay a minimum of 30 years before you're able to be let go. So you are 65, you get out. Most of the time they see that you're not going to offend again since you're such a young age. You'll just live it out to your rest of your life the best you can. Or you can sentence them to life without parole. Then they have to stay incarcerated the whole time. Most of the time they get minimum time outside of the actual cell. So most of the time they're just sitting in there. So how many people remember 9/11? Yeah, most of us probably don't remember much about it. We know that it happened, and we've done a lot of research since then. But about a month before that actually occurred, Zakaris Musai, he was arrested, and for terrorist, they thought he was a terrorist. And then after that occurred, he was charged with the 9/11, with being associated with them. And a single juror saved him from being put to death. So we're going to take a look at his life since 2006. He has been incarcerated for 23 hours per day in a concrete cell, and he gets 1 hour a day to go out, and he's basically put in a concrete pool where he has no access to inmates, no access to the guards, except for when they're taking him there and back. And most of the time, they don't even say anything to him. So he has no contact with the outside world except for that time where he gets to look up in the sky and see the birds, see the planes. But that's it. He doesn't have no contact with anybody at all. So the next time you want to send someone straight to the death row, ask yourself this. Why do we as a country want to kill people who kill people to show citizens that killing people is wrong? Thank you.